For example, if you look at chapter 19, verse 24, the sluggard is so lazy, after he put his hands in food, he can't even summon the energy to bring back into his mouth. In Proverbs chapter 22, 13, shows us that the sluggard can't even bother to go to work and make up some crazy excuse that aligns outside of his house. Now, why do we find them funny? Is it due to that they're just plain silly? Well, we laugh because we have similar times when we just do things halfway and can't bother to finish them. Or we have make up similar excuses for things we don't want to do. Now, first of all, let's look at some characteristics of the talk about a sluggard here. The first point is a sluggard is a procrastinator. We can see this in chapter 22, verse 4.
Stop looking at it.
That when it is time to plow the field to get ready for the next year's harvest, he said to himself, I will do it tomorrow, and tomorrow never comes. So he never does it. And the Bible does not stop there to point out his foolishness.
The deadline of assessment.
But shows even though he did not do anything did not do anything at all during harvest time, he still go and look and expect something there. And what does he find? Nothing. I wonder why. The second characteristic is that a sluggard is a rationalizer. It is interesting that the sluggard is not someone who do not think a lot, but in fact he thinks more than he do. We can see this in chapter 22, verse 13, where the sluggard rationalized why he can't go to work. It is because that there's a lion outside of his house, or he will be killed in the street. The sluggard rationalized that he's not doing the things that he should be doing. And again, we see this in Proverbs 27, 16. The sluggard is wise in his own eye, and 7 men answer discreetly. So the sluggard thinks he's wise, when often he's not. Again, come back to us. How often do we ourselves think we are smarter by taking any form of shortcut, or spending more time to think of a cover story for not doing the work than the work itself? And afterwards, we think to ourselves how smart we are. And the next day we tell everyone about it. The third point of the sluggard is that he is short-sighted. He's only to seek and please himself right here and right now. And I think it is one of the most evidently clear in the passages. The best example is chapter 22, verse 14. As door turns on its hinges, as a sluggard turns on his bed. Just in case you don't know, doorknobs are always on its hinges. So therefore, a sluggard is always in his bed. Now, I don't think we can just limit this to bed. But think about where do you spend most of your time all day long, apart from sleeping. Now, is that thing for your own self-pleasure or good of others? And not going on Facebook, and no, going on Facebook is not a good thing for others. The last character of a sluggard we're going to talk about is foolishness. A sluggard is foolish. As from my wisdom and foolish talk, that back a couple of weeks ago now, we found out that there's a difference from being smart and wise. The sluggard is a great example. He can think of all this crazy excuse, but yet again we see how foolish he is. Do you think we can relate to that? I know I can. So, what's the result of being a sluggard? Well, apart from that he will not be able to eat and go hungry, also it is interesting to point out that sometimes the sluggard don't eat is because he do not work, but other time we see that he do the work halfway and stop, and therefore not getting a reward for it. We can see this in Proverbs chapter 19:24, that he can't even bring the food back to his own mouth. He's halfway there. Now, there are many characteristics of being a sluggard. And by the way, if you haven't got it, it's not good. but that will take a long time to get through. Now, why is a sluggard? How can we fix that problem? Well, we can't just tell us that not to be lazy. Is that a possibility? Just every single week, just tell us, don't be lazy, don't be lazy, don't be lazy. Well, the answer is no. I'm going to give you 2 examples. The first example is actually a psychology study. Many of you guys will be familiar with the Good Samaritan parable. Basically, is that the priest didn't help the guy who's in need, but a random guy helped out the guy who's in need. In the psychology study, actually shows that they tested on basically Bible college students from point A to point B, and from point A to point B, they told them to think about the Good Samaritan parable and get them to go from point A to point B, and then in the middle they had someone in need of help. And they found, and the other situation was just simply by telling some random story going from point A to point B. They found that does not matter if you had that story in your mind or have that being godly in your mind. That's not going to change the fact that you're going to help someone or not. The fact actually affected was that if you're busy or not, if you're busy, you tend to just be self-centered, and if you're not busy, you tend to help people. Just as Andrew shared some of his own example last week, or whenever he talked to us last week, I will do the same. This week was pretty full on for me. I had a 2,000-word essay due today, the talk to write tonight, and also an exam on this Wednesday. And by the time for you guys who don't know, I work full-time. So at the start of the week, I told myself not to be lazy. I must get this done. But I keep finding reasons not to do them. Such as on Wednesday, I wrote up a whole plan of the whole day next day of exactly how much study I'm going to do and what time I'm going to get up. And so that I could be lazy on Wednesday night, but actually not doing anything, thinking, oh, tomorrow I'll do it. I have all this planned out. So that night I didn't do any work. And the next day I got up late because I went to bed late. As a result, I didn't do half the amount I was going to do. Anyway, what was the result of this? Well, I only started the study, for the exam, I need to study for an hour. The report, I got done 4:30 this morning. The talk, I literally just finished half an hour ago.
So it's an hour and a half ago.